Yes, nice words.
I gotta tweet this out. Be on top of the game here.
How you been, Hyde?
I'm good. I'm missing you guys, sort of, maybe a little.
Yeah,
Missing the first days of camp. I very weird right now.
yeah, that sucks. But
I got a direction.
trying to force the perfect season.
Is that better?
What's that cord you got hanging there?
This.
Yeah,
That's just a light.
there you go.
It's my set. It's my set, Omar.
Hey, man, I,
I
I
like
had to build a
people.
set for myself. Got
My
my
lighting
wife's selfie
people.
sticks and all that fun stuff for lighting.
You didn't get my makeup people are and my lighting people.
Hey, I couldn't find my makeup, which is unbelievable. So I'm gonna be just shiny.
I never trust a man in makeup. A guy in TV told me that as,
Yeah.
as we were going on the air.
Yeah, we're good to go. Hold on. Before it, what?
Little what? Oh, okay. Less. That better? Or I should a couple of.
Welcome back, Dolphin fans, to the real training camp X's and Omar show. The first one we had that was just to get you ready for training camp, but the Dolphins have actually gotten on the field after this very long, prolonged offseason that's been sort of a distraction for what's going on in real society in terms of COVID-19. But we are back to football. What we've seen so far in the Dolphins 2020 OTAs or training camp, some good, some bad, and we'll dissect all of that here on your latest edition of X's and Omar, the training camp special. I am Omar Kelly, Sun Sentinel columnist. That is Dave Hyde, the Hall of Fame award-winning Sun Sentinel columnist, and we are here to talk Dolphins for you. So, Dave, we've gotten our first look at the Brian Flores Year 2 Dolphin squad, the team that Chris Kerr has assembled, filled with rookies. I believe there are 18 rookies on this team. What are some of your impressions so far, and what are some of your concerns?
Well, let's start here. I haven't been out there because of the COVID restrictions of reporters and also the Heat playoffs. So let's get that business out of the way. Full disclosure. That said, I'm reading and I'm looking at video and I'm watching on Zoom the interviews um, obviously to me the big news is any injury at a point like this. Vince Beagle going down is a big injury, and the other news that's coming out is Tua Tagovailoa is starting slow. Well, big surprise and big deal, right? Every rookie and any position pretty much, especially at quarterback, those first 2 weeks, everything is moving a million miles an hour, and it's going to be a little catch-up time. So, this is sort of what should have happened in May and June, and to the point where you're a little more acclimated in certainly by this time in mid-August. But no great surprises to me.
Yeah, I mean, people have to consider he spent the last 8 months not necessarily doing football stuff, but rehabilitating a surgically repaired hip. Keep in mind also that they have not had an off-season program. It's all gone virtual, so they've been on Zoom classrooms, and even Brian Flores says what you see on Zoom does not necessarily translate onto the field. So everybody who's and I've tried to address this earlier, everybody who's in a panic state because Tua isn't pushing for the starting spot, calm down. It's early. We've been on the field for, what is it, 3 practices?
Is there
Like
panic? Is there panic in the streets, Omar?
there is panic in the streets, Dave.
Wow.
They got Joe Burrow over there looking confident in Cincinnati, and Tua is working the third team. That doesn't make anybody uncomfortable. I've heard a comparison to Pat White, Dave. It's really hilarious.
It's such great hot takes like that, you know.
I have to laugh at that stuff. As I've consistently said, even before he's drafted, Tua isn't for this season. Learn, develop, progress.
We're gonna go to a little battle on this skirmish, not big, not a war, not a full scale war. You take a quarterback who you say is a franchise quarterback. He better be ready to play. You better be seeing something that says, okay, I like him in my first year. He can beat out a career bottom 2/3 of the league quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Are you disrespecting Ryan Fitzpatrick? Bottom 2/3? Is that really what you're saying?
Just look at his stats, Omar. I mean, he's got 16 years now stacked up.
Listen. I'm going to break script right now, and I'm going to force you to put some respect on Ryan Fitzpatrick's name. Because when we came into last season, we said, oh, man, Fitz is that type of quarterback. He can win you 5 or 6 games on his own. Name me a quarterback in a bottom third that you think can win a team 5 or 6 games on his own. And I know a lot of people give Brian Flores credit for these 5 wins, and I will argue to my death that it was Fitzpatrick.
Oh, Omar, okay, he had a great year last year, right? Great year for Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? And I loved watching him play. I love what he brought, all that. So don't put me in a corner where I'm disrespecting Ryan Fitzpatrick, but you've seen his career.
Yeah. There's a Fitzpatrick cycle of life.
Yes, game, Omar, and all of a sudden you're saying he's a top 10 quarterback, right?
Oh, I didn't say that. Oh.
What do you say?
I know there's a Fitzpatrick cycle of life. We know how it goes. And to be honest with you, I have seen his arm is a little concerning to me right now. There is a lot of fading going on to some of his passes that are past 20 yards, which makes me concerned. But when you're 35 years old, those things are going to happen. But let's calm down. To me, the quarterback that we need to watch, and I know people who heard me last year are not going to believe these words out of my mouth, but Josh Rosen looks good.
He's the one. And again, I did this last year. You need to see what he is. And if that's just because trade value at this point, if it's because you're not going to trade him this year, but back up, what do you got in Josh Rosen? And this to me, the first start of this year before Tua gets up to speed, whenever that is, whether game 8, game 10, game 12, assuming we get there, but Josh Rosen should be taking that progressive step forward to you say, if he's ever going to, this is it. This is his time.
Definitely. And the pressure's off. We'll discuss a little bit more of Josh Rosen later on in the show. But right now we go to our first question, who comes from Herbert GM76. With all the health and security measures you felt getting inside Dolphins facility, are you more confident that we get a complete season? And I think that question is directed to me because I've always felt like they would.
You have to answer that, Omar.
Yeah, I've always felt like they will start the season, but I do not have the confidence that the NFL will be able to play 16 games. After seeing all of the things and situations that I have to go through, and whether I'm in tier 3, which I'm in tier 3, and Saf's in tier 2, and Dave can't even come out, I have more confidence that they will play a full 16-game season. And this is why I have more confidence. I feel safer inside the Dolphins facility in Davie when I go to work every day than I do anywhere else in life. And they've put money behind it. They've put effort behind it. This is an $11 billion business, and they have ensured to all of their employees that we're going to get our money. And we're going to play this season, and we're going to remain the top sport in the world. And I believe it. I do believe all of the safety protocols. I mean, they've got trackers that, if you sit too close, I don't wear them, but tier 2 guys, if you're sitting too close to another coworker in the media, you're going to light up. if you're there 15 minutes together, you're going to be red flagged. So there's so many protocols. I believe we're going to have the Sam Eguavons come down with COVID and then get sequestered for 2 weeks or longer or maybe shorter. But and we might have an outbreak on a team or two, but I don't think it's going to be widespread.
The interesting thing about the NFL compared to the other sports, first of all, they're not in a bubble officially, but from a practical why it could succeed standpoint, and I don't know. I really don't know whether it can or not, but they get paid every week. If they get paid by the game, so there's weekly motivation for them, as opposed to the other sports that get guaranteed money. Okay, if they don't play week one, they don't get their money, and so there's great motivation for the players certainly to stay healthy right now. But let's go to the next question. We got one from Doug. What's the hardest part about doing your job, informing us given the environment, and what should our expectation be about what you can provide?
Well, I think the ability to build relationships is going to be very difficult because, yesterday we were doing Zoom interviews, and I thought Emmanuel Ogbah was Noah Igbinoghene, Noah, the rookie cornerback. There was no introductions. They look kind of similar. I don't get any face-to-face interactions. I don't get to go inside the locker room. So it's going to be harder to tell unique stories or get to know players. That's just the stage of life that we're having in COVID-19. And that's a challenge in itself, but I really don't think the fans are going to care about that. They're going to get their fix. But also, like guys like Solomon Kinley, who's been working as a starting right guard since camp opened, a rookie. We just haven't had the opportunity to talk to him because he just hasn't been given to us in an interview. We got to wait till they're given to us, and that's a little bit uncomfortable.
In every sport, Omar, that's the real problem, and it's harder to be a sports fan. You want to get to know the players, you want to hear their stories or what they're doing in practice, and you're really not getting anything beyond 5 simple questions that before it's cut off on Zoom. And I don't think it's good for anybody. I really, and my fear in this business is this is how, when we come out of this, teams that love to control things will decide this is how we're going to do it.
Absolutely. I can see it right now, and it's kind of scary. Let's get to question number 3, which comes from Cleva 305, who asks, since we don't know how long Xavier Howard will be gone, who do you see manning the opposite side of Byron Jones?
Well, it'll be interesting. I think will the rookie go in there? Is that, to me, is going to be a fascinating question, because and the other thing is, what's Brian Flores's real mindset of that? Because you can have a great cornerback on one side and get away with having a okay cornerback, but you double the receiver on the other side. So Flores moves guys around a lot. I'm curious to see what he does. The curious one to me, and ran into a couple Auburn people this offseason who love the rookie, and so I'm fast. I'll be curious to see how quickly he can get up to speed and play at a high level.
Well, he can get up to speed quickly. And also, so the most important thing is what I've learned from the first week of what Brian Flores is doing is he's taking the Bill Parcells approach. He's throwing the rookies into the deep end of the pool and determining whether or not they can sink or swim and how much they can handle. Just like Bill Parcells says, if he don't bite as a puppy, the dog probably won't bite. And right now, Noah's getting every opportunity to be the starter while Xavier Howard is gone. And while he's recovering from COVID and while he's recovering from the knee injury, and he looks like it's not too big for him. And let's hope this remains consistent. And based on everything I know about him from his work ethic and how hard he pushes himself and how hard he works, I'm not necessarily certain that he's not going to be able to handle it. Now, the curious thing is what does that mean for Nick Needham? And right now, Nick Needham is buried down there on the depth chart, and he's got to work his way out. It's not like he hasn't done it before, but you got to work your way out with consistent practices and making plays.
Yeah, to me, Omar, the curious part of that question is Xavier Howard. He missed most of last year. He's got a serious injury. He's had two, he's had problems with both knees at this point. Not necessarily major problems, but problems. How long will it take him, if at all? Because we know he plays at a high level when he's healthy, to get back into the stream of things. Considering there's not a lot of practice time out there these days in the NFL.
Definitely. Let's get to our next question, which comes from Chris, who's got a good one. Does the defense have the talent to be a top 10 unit in this league, Dave?
Tell me how the defensive tackles and can they stop the run up the middle? Do they have the talent? They have a lot of talent, a lot of high-priced, a lot of high investments with draft picks. They do have some really fascinating talent on defense. Yes, they could be top 10. Not only that, they need to be top 10 if this team's going to win this year, because they're going to win games with the defense. But if I'm Bill Belichick, if I'm the Buffalo Bills who have the manpower to do this, I'm testing them up the middle all game and see if they can stop them.
You just created a game plan that I hadn't thought about, and it is a very fair and accurate game plan. That is how I would attack the Miami Dolphins. But I will give you an equalizer. Raekwon Davis, who has probably been the most impressive physical specimen that I've seen in quite a while on the Dolphins football field. While he's not making plays on 11-on-11s, I can tell you he's throwing people around in one-on-ones, and that has got to be intriguing. Now, the question is, can he live up to his talent level? Can he actually deliver on his ability? And also another player who's going to be a huge factor for that is Kyle Van Noy. And if you look at Kyle Van Noy in terms of all the things that he's done in his career and his ability, he could set the edge. He could play. He could stop the run. He could rush the quarterback. He could drop back in coverage. There are very few players who can actually have a complete array of skill sets like that. And if he's able to fill that role and sort of be that player who is the chess piece that you don't know exactly how he's going to move on the chessboard or what he's going to do, it creates confusion on the defense. And the Dolphins haven't had a player like that in quite some time.
Yeah, and Omar, to bring some of the questions together, to me, it all starts with those cornerbacks. If they get Xavier Howard and Jones out there playing at the same time, that frees up, Flores strategically to do a lot of other things. And so I'm watching Xavier Howard to see when he can get back out there as a huge key to what they can do here. So, okay, we got our first impressions of the Chan Gailey offense, and right now it seems to be a work in progress. You got a good look at the quarterbacks. What are some of your impressions, Omar? Let's go through it. What do you think? What have you seen? We've touched on it a little with Josh Rosen, showing some good things early on.
Well, right now, the first thing that you notice is Ryan Fitzpatrick has a great mastery of this offense. And I probably great is overstating it, but nobody has invested in Ryan Fitzpatrick more than Chan Gailey has over his career. And Ryan is out there orchestrating and changing routes, and he looks like this is an offense he knows and is well adjusted to. Now, the question that I have is that arm. I've seen some balls die on him in practice, and it's intercepted or it's put in a position where it can be intercepted. And if this is what I'm going to see for 16 weeks, he's not going to last 8 as a starter. And that's a little bit concerning and troubling, but this is what you should expect when you have a 35-year-old quarterback. Now, in terms of Josh,
37, Omar, I let it go once, but he'll be 38 in November, I believe.
38. Geez, I was being generous to him. Yeah, he's 15 years in. That's where the 5 comes in. But Josh Rosen, I will say this, and it's on record. I'm not a Josh Rosen fan. Didn't like what I saw from him in college. Didn't like what I saw from him in his rookie season. Didn't like what I saw from him when he got onto the field with the Dolphins. Processing speed is just a tad bit slow. What I can tell you is I have only seen that processing issue one day during practice, and it was just one small instance. He's processing things faster, operating faster. Maybe the offensive line's improvement has helped him. We'll see. Now, his arm is by far the best arm in camp. And should that concern anybody? Should that freak anybody out? It really shouldn't, because he was drafted as a #1 overall pick, 8th overall, because he's got a good arm, because he throws with good touch. The arm isn't a concern. It's the processing speed. If he can fix those issues in terms of processing speed, I think we might be looking at a Drew Brees situation where, remember when Drew Brees was with the Chargers and he held off Phillip Rivers from taking that starting spot? I could see Josh Rosen starting this year. Now, does it make sense for the Dolphins? Yeah. I mean, he's still a young developmental player, and based on what I've seen, if I put him into the starting lineup next week, I'd be curious. I just would be.
Yeah, I had a former GM in the league and now a guy who's scouting everybody said, when I asked before the draft who he'd take, would you take Tua? Actually, was my question. He goes, I might be tempted to take Tua. He goes, but I'm curious what Josh Rosen, who he can be still. Do not count him out. And look, if you're the Dolphins, you're keeping him around. You invested in him. You put a second-round pick last year. You invested last year. Yes, have an open mind. See what everybody can do. There's no reason. So, I'm curious to see what Josh Rosen can be. And if that's a high bar, but it could be a Drew Brees situation. You're right.
Not comparing him to Drew Brees. I'm just saying it could be a Drew Brees situation.
Right, right. That'd be interesting, and it wouldn't necessarily be bad news. Look, the Dolphins need a high-end franchise quarterback. It doesn't matter who it is or where it comes from.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that question, Tua, there's nothing wrong with what I've seen. It looks like a rookie who's learning an offense, working with the third-team weaponry, which isn't that great, trying to make the best of what he's given, and he's doing that. He's making the best of, you give him ramen noodles and he throws a little egg in there and probably, a little bit of spinach. He's trying to make the best of the situation. It's just not there yet
and the shame is this should have been May or June or even the first week or two of camp in July, and we're right on the edge of the season right now. And, that's not his fault. It's just, the situation everybody's working with. So
it is just the situation that he's had. And I'm not disappointed at all. Let's get this clear. I am not disappointed at all in what I've seen. I watched him roll out and run yesterday, and I was shocked because he looked like an athlete, not like a guy who had his hip surgically repaired. I've seen from all 3 days touch and accuracy. I've seen leadership. Those are the things that intrigued me and made me want the Dolphins to draft him. So everything that I wanted, that I anticipated seeing is there. He just needs time to grow.
All right, Omar. Bo wants to know, gut feeling, what version of Ryan Fitzpatrick are we going to get in 2020?
We are going to get the Ryan Fitzpatrick in his second year with the Jets after he delivered a 10-6 season where it was just a come back down to earth situation. And a lot of it was because of injuries that they had on that team. But Ryan just wasn't the player and the playmaker that we saw last year. Now, he's got better weaponry, I think. Maybe. We'll see. He's got a better offensive line, I think. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. Yeah, he's got better running backs, I think. Maybe. We'll see. His job is to hold it all together, and I think he can do that for the early portion of the season. But I just have my doubts about him physically right now. I didn't anticipate and expect week 1 of training camp that his arm would be fading already. I noticed it fade twice last year, and one of them led to him being demoted for Josh Rosen, and then it faded later on in the year. He just made it by. When you have a quarterback that their balls fade on them, defense start to jump them, and they notice it, and there's an awareness that's created, and defenses become more aggressive. You can't play an entire season like that.
Yeah, but a lot of veteran, in fact, older core, they get a dead arm. A lot of everybody in camp, right? If we all of a sudden, so.
But we just started, Dave.
Yeah, I know. All right. Without a preseason, Jacob wants to know, Does it make harder to drive up the price? All ready to trade him, ready, Josh Rosen.
I mean, let's be realistic and let's set what's a fair price for Josh Rosen. Right now, I think based on what we've seen in the NFL, either with Arizona or with the Dolphins, if somebody offered you a fourth-round pick, I think you'd be like, I got to seriously consider that. If they offer me a third-round pick, I'm pulling the trigger. I think the fact that we're not going to be able to see him in the preseason and really just only a select couple of media members like myself are able to see him and see the progress and development, and there has been progress and development. I think that helps them. But I will say this, the issue with Josh Rosen is about whether or not he's committed to football, whether or not he's all in. And that question has plagued him from his days at UCLA. And I think this season, where nobody expects anything from him, he's a throw-in quarterback. This season, if you want it, you got to go get it. And I think that he's taken that attitude.
Yeah, Omar, look, he's 23. All right, just turned 23. All right, so basically, this would almost be his rookie year chronologically, maybe 1 year in. But the other thing, I agree with you. The value probably is high end. The best you could get, everything would be a fourth rounder, something like that. Okay, I don't trade him for that. I'm more curious. Okay, I hold on to him and say, what he's costing you nothing contract wise. You need three quarterbacks this year, especially.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know Tua, where's he going to be? You got to have some type of, plan in case he's not healthy too. Okay, if something happens. Okay, and so you need three quarterbacks and three quarterbacks who could play. And so they don't need draft picks. They got plenty of draft picks. Okay, they need some players.
I actually agree with you, Dave. It just doesn't, unless somebody overwhelms you in this season where you just have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, your quarterback room could get stricken with COVID, and you're left with, signing a quarterback off the street to start games. So you're probably right. Maybe this is the year we hold on to Josh Rosen and reevaluate the situation at the end of the season.
All right, Matt Miller has, to me, the central question of training camp, other than the story of where Tua is at and the quarterbacks, the real central issue, how's the O-line looking, and are there any standouts?
Well, for those who have not seen, the O-line looks big. They're big. They're big boys. Whether or not they can play, I don't know, but they're big boys. I'm talking about a line that looks John Jerry-esque. And this can definitely benefit the Dolphins from a pass blocking standpoint. Now, the question is, can it benefit them from a run blocking standpoint? Solomon Kinley, the University of Georgia guard that the Dolphins selected in the third round, he is getting first crack at being a starter. Now, the offensive coach, Steve Marshall, offensive line coach, says all three rookies are got fair shot. And if you watch what they're doing in training camp right now, rookies are being thrown in there. Show us you can't handle it. So Austin Jackson, starting left tackle. Solomon Kinley, starting right guard. Then you got Robert Hunt, who's going to be, I'm assuming, going to get into that mix for the starting right guard spot. If not, he finished some of the practice pushing Jesse Davis, or Jesse Davis wasn't working and he was getting the snaps at right tackle. So it'll be interesting to see what the dynamic is. But that line all across the board, probably Ted Karras is the smallest at about 320. They're 330 pounds. And honestly, Dave, I like it.
I like it. We'll see how they hold up in the fourth quarter. I'm watching Joel Embiid play in the NBA playoffs, and he's winded in the fourth quarter. He is winded. You big
That's
guy.
a good point.
Okay, listen. They're going to have to be in great shape in the heat down here with big bodies playing in the fourth quarter.
Or they have a deep rotation where guys could just come in there and Julian Davenport and Robert Hunt. That gives them a lot of flexibility. And then Michael Dieter, who's now learning how to play center, gives them a lot of flexibility. I would argue to you that offensive line might be the deepest unit on this team.
Deepest and most unproven, right?
That's correct.
I mean, they get you think they have talent there just from the investments. There's a lot of high round picks in there, and let's get them on the field, see what they can do. And it's not just finding positions. Then they got to play together. right?
That's true. Yeah, that's the biggest
To me,
challenge
that's
for
the
them to
central
play as
story
a team.
of training camp if they can get ready for early in the year.
Well, we've got a very interesting dynamic in the AFC East where the New England Patriots are rebuilding, the New York Jets are the New York Jets, and then the Buffalo Bills are supposed to be the cream of the division, Dave. What team scares you about this division?
Oh,
What
Buffalo is the cream of the. They should win the division. Okay, to me it was going to be a toss up between New England and Buffalo, and then New England's lost. Where are we up to? 8 players have taken the opt out, front end players and new quarterback. But if you're asking me what team scares me, which is different than which team and what I picked to win, New England scares me. Are you kidding? You got Bill Belichick. If Cam Newton is anything what he once was, they still got a good offensive line. They will make it work. They will make it work. So what team scares me? It's certainly not the Jets.
I've always said this, and I stand by this, and this doesn't take anything away from Bill Belichick, who he is as the coach, and who he is. Bill Belichick's arguably a top 3 coach in the NFL in football history, but Tom Brady made those Patriots, and for 18 years, Tom Brady propped them up and made them a tough, formidable dynasty. No Tom Brady, no dynasty. They don't scare me.
Yeah, my thought is you need both. It's the age-old question: who's more important, the coach or the quarterback? You need them both. You look at all the Hall of Fame pairings. A great quarterback has a great coach going in with them, and vice versa. There's very rare is a quarterback in there who hasn't been coached by a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I agree. Tom Brady did prop him up at times, but you know what? Bill Belichick rebuilt that team 4 times probably when Brady was there. So, they're going to scare me. They're going to scare me, though. Okay. Okay, Omar. Let's see. Carroll City wants to know, is it possible the Dolphins may have the most talented roster in the AFC East?
I would say no. And from this standpoint, I don't feel comfortable with what I'm seeing at quarterback right now. I don't feel comfortable with what I'm seeing at running back right now. And it's super early. The offensive line is absolutely unproven. We don't have any inline tight end that's raising her hand and saying, "Hey, I'm the guy." Right now, the Buffalo Bills are the most talented team in the AFC East, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We know you can never count out the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick. I'm not a big believer in Cam Newton. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But and then Adam Gase is going to Adam Gase, baby. He's going to run off and trade away some of his best talent on that team. It'll be interesting how Le'Veon Bell and Frank Gore play out. But
wait a second, Omar, you've always been the defensive Gase.
I am a believer in Adam Gase, but I've always said this, and I stand by this. Adam Gase will be a good coach when he matures. Has Adam Gase matured?
He's 50. What are you going to wait? How old's he got to be?
He's not 50.
What chance is he going to give him?
He is so immature, and it just rears its ugly head.
He's going to grow out of that?
Yeah, I hope so. I really do hope he does. Because I think he could be a good coach when he matures, when he grows up. But just the ego's too big, man. And New York is a bad place for big ego.
Okay. Good Morning wants to know, will this defense be schemed to create pressure quickly, or are the cornerbacks expected to hold up longer to allow pressure?
This goes into my biggest issue with the New England defense, which Brian Flores has led. They don't believe in having players create pressure. They believe in scheme creating pressure. And I think that sucks. And I'm curious to see how this plays out. Yes, Emmanuel Ogbah and Shaq Lawson, they're upgrades from what they once had in Taco Charlton and Charles Harris and Avery Moss. But I don't really see a player who's going to do like a Jason Taylor or a Cam Wake did, which is just absolutely destroy the tackle that he's facing and create pressure. This is a pressure by surprise. We're bringing a linebacker. Surprise, safety's coming. Surprise, oh, we're stunting our defensive ends. Oh, we've got a defensive tackle dropping back into coverage. Surprise. And that crap don't work.
Well, what you're saying, they don't have a Hall of Fame talent. I mean, Jason Taylor's a Hall of Famer. Cam Wake, borderline, if he'd played a full career, maybe Hall of Famer. Um, to me, the interesting part, I thought you were going to go into the analogy to New England. Bill Belichick invests in his secondary. Okay, that's where he puts his contracts. He gets rid
Yeah.
of the Chandler going to a great pass rusher going there. He lets him go to Arizona for big money, but he'll invest in the secondary. Okay, so when the question asks, you know, how are they going to get a pass rush? It's going to be built off the back end, I think, to allow, as Omar says, schematically, to allow the front seven, however they decide to do it, to
Mhm.
get to the quarterback.
I mean, if you look at the secondary right now, you've got five cornerbacks out there on the field, no safeties. And that's very interesting
That's
because
base defense, isn't it anymore in the NFL? Five defensive backs, whether now five cornerbacks is interesting.
yeah, this is not five defensive backs. This is five cornerbacks. So everybody can cover everybody. The question is, and Eric Rowe talked about it a little bit, and it did raise an alarm of concern. He's got to master those run fits. He's got to get in there and fill. And if he can't do that, then you've got to lean on a guy like a Kayvon Frazier who's done that, or a Clayton Fadejahuda. I don't even know how to say his name. Um, or a Brandon Jones. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with this defense moving forward, but they are very versatile on the back end. Even the linebackers are very versatile. The question is, can the front line, the defensive front, get the job done? And you're right. I'm a little bit concerned there.
Well, they don't have a one of those hard hitting safeties that you had, you know, again, the defensive tackles, you know, where are they compared to last year? You know, and up the middle, can they stop a power running game? And you know, I'm curious. That we'll see. Um, let's see. Jay Twin has a good question. What part of this football team do you think will be the most improved, and which part needs the most talent and work?
Well, let's start with the most improved. And even though there's a lot of unknowns about Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Agba, I have to say there are far better edge setters than that went out the door. So let's just start there. They could do a better job setting the edge, less pressure on the defensive tackles. Defensive tackles play better, less pressure on the linebackers. So hopefully that's going to snowball and improve on this defense. Now, the area that where I see the most concern, the tight end unit. We've got Mike Gesicki and Adam Shaheen as the top guys, and then we've got Durb Smite added into the mix as a guy who's basically an inline guy. I don't see anybody just outside of Gesicki who I don't trust working on the line. I don't see anybody who can shake something and make something happen there. And that unit, it's just okay to me.
You know, there was a fascinating. I'm trying to think who put it out there. An NFL former scout, might have been Daniel Jeremiah, put it out of Bill Belichick's. He took notes when Bill Belichick came and talked to them, and one of his points was a tight end who's a receiver and not a blocker. He's fine with, allow him to be a receiver, and just try to make him be a get in the way blocker as opposed to be. So it seems like, what, right or wrong, that's the path that Mike Gesicki is going to take. Okay, and you got to make that work now. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. To me, again, I'll get back to the offensive line as the. I'm not questioning the talent. I'm questioning NFL up to speed, ready, and you counting on a lot of bodies. Not only being able to play at an NFL level, but be able to play together at an NFL level. And if I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick and I'm about to turn 38, I might be a little nervous behind that offensive line.
Hey man, they're big. There's a lot of girth on that offensive line. They're like John Jerry. You're not going to steamroll them to the quarterback. Like we can talk negative about John Jerry all we want, but you weren't beating him to the quarterback.
They might be better though when they lose 10 pounds, right? When they turn that, I don't know.
I don't see guys struggling to finish practice and getting an IV, and they're even working after practice. So I don't know until we see them in action, and really I believe an offensive line works best when they work as a unit. When they've got chemistry, when they've got a bond, when they can communicate. You know my obsession with offensive linemen. That's the area of the locker room I've hung around for 10 years. That I just
Like
feel
the
like I'm
big
a
uglies.
300.
You like them, and they went invested in them this year. They had to. Very smart thing by Chris Greer and Brian Flores. They knew they needed
You know
to get
what's funny, and
them.
I'm glad I have the opportunity to say this on X's and Omar. I found it very intriguing on draft day. Brian Flores is a man who gives you very little emotion, very little expressions. But on draft day, when they had that camera on him on the second day, he celebrated when they drafted Solomon Kindley. Like he was like, "Yes, we got." And I was just like, "Where did that come from?" So it does not surprise me that you see Solomon Kindley in there as a starting lineup.
He also, I think he pounded the table when the Ohio State running back was taken, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Chris Booston asked, true or false, Omar? Jakeem Grant and Isaiah Ford can be everybody as good as Albert Wilson and Alan Hearns.
That is a false. There is no secret that I am Jakeem Grant's probably biggest critic. I will praise him when he does well.
I love
He is,
Jakeem Grant.
huh?
I love Jakeem Grant.
I know you do. I know you do. Here's the problem that I have with Jakeem all the time. One, when you hit him, every hit looks like a career-ending hit. I do not believe that somebody can handle that workload on that type of abuse for 16 games. Two, every day he killed it on day one. And then you know what happened on day two? He got the dropsies. And it's just not consistent enough for me. If Jakeem actually played like he has the potential to play in terms of bringing in tough grabs, and that's really the issue. I think, and he'll be upset and in his feelings that I said this. I think he's scared to get one of those hits because he's open. It's just when that safeties are coming, that balls are coming out. And if he could get over that, I think they'll be all right. I wrote a column in today's Sun Sentinel. I'm nervous and concerned about that receiver unit. There is not enough. And while it might look great now with Devontae Parker healthy and Preston, not great, it might look sufficient with Parker healthy and Preston Williams healthy. How likely is that to happen and last for 16 games? I give that 0% possibility. And then when one of them goes down, if not two, what happens to the unit then? There is just not enough.
Yeah, I'm curious. We've pounded the Jakeem Grant into the ground. I like his story. Okay, I like what he's overcome and everything. But to me, I want to see Isaiah Ford stay healthy. Can he stay healthy? Because all you hear about is
he's smart.
Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about it last year, and other people picked up on it. Is they love him. They love what he brings. They love his command of the offense. They think he's a very smart receiver. I'm curious. I'd love to see him on the field for a season just to see what he is. But I would say they can become, to answer the question. The question is, are you? My question about this question is, are you talking about Albert Wilson we saw 2 years ago for the start of the year when he was impactful, or since then where he's been hurt? So, I mean, there's a lot of – it's almost a question of who can stay healthy, whichever side can stay healthy. If Ford and Grant can stay healthy, they'll have impact.
Very good point. Well
all right. Night Sicko asked Omar, will Matt Breida's injury history, and here we talk injuries again, with Jordan Howard be Brian Flores' workhorse the whole year?
Just listening to, we were on conference call just before we did X's and Omar, and listening to some of the thought processes of these coaches. Jordan Howard gets you what it's drawn up to be. And there is some value in that. That's part of the reason why Frank Gore was starting when he was here over Kalen Ballage, because Frank Gore will get you into the 2nd and 6. He will get you into a 3rd and manageable, which is why I think Jordan Howard is probably going to be the every down back. But I do see Matt Breida being the feature back, the guy that plays are designed for, the guy that the offense is built around, the guy that you're going to try to deliver that home run hit. It could work well together if that offensive line can actually create a surge and get movement. So I do see Howard being the workhorse guy, the guy who's going to give you those tough yards, the guy who's going to work that goal line situation. But I do see Matt being the home run hitter.
And the question, are either of them long term, the guy you can say we're going to put back there for the next 3-4 years, and yeah, I'm with you on that. As you talk about building and developing a team and all that now, and you might also say, look who was starting in the Super Bowl last year. Neither of them were,
Yeah.
guys that you invest much in and just go out and get a running back every year.
Yeah, I believe get some talent is special. But yeah, I think that this is just a band-aid for the running back situation. The one guy that, and I'm gonna say it now because I probably will never get the opportunity to in coming weeks, but Myles Gaskin, a guy I left him for dead. And he had the best week the first week of practice, and even the coach acknowledged that he had the best. Not Coach Flores, but his position coach acknowledged, yeah, he did well. And you just never know. The one thing I do like about Flores is if you play well, you perform well, you'll be elevated. You'll play on Sunday. You'll start on Sunday. And based on what we've seen, today's a day off for the Dolphins. Based on what I've seen so far in the first week, Myles Gaskin needs to be running back number one.
You're making all your decisions off the first week, Omar. Come on.
I'm just saying, you practice well, you get elevated. That's right. What we've generally seen in week 2 of training camp.
Let's see when the hard pads and the hard hitting come on, and for a few weeks, then we'll see who's playing football, right?
I'm just saying, who needs?
Yeah, I know. I get it. The interesting thing as we go through these questions is there's a lot of positions that aren't completely settled.
I don't think there's any position that's completely settled. In fact, the only player that I would tell you that I have no doubt will be starting on September 13th is probably Bobby McCain and Devontae Parker. Those are the only two guys. I can't do it for Jesse Davis. I can't do it for Ted Karras. I can't do it for Eric Flowers. I can't do it for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I can't do it for Mike Gesicki. I just can't. Those are the two guys that I can tell you right now, they probably got their jobs locked up if they could stay healthy. Everybody else is up for grabs.
Well, that's going to be an interesting, where we're down to almost a little over 3 weeks then.
I think 25 days.
Hard to believe.
25 days till kickoff, Dave.
Well, I'll just be curious. Let's get to that point, okay? I'm
no doubt in my mind they're going to get to kickoff because it is such a safe environment. And it really is mind-blowing. Yes, players are still catching COVID.
It's not the environment there. It's having 80 guys elsewhere, and I get they're locked down or they're in the hotels and all that stuff, but guys are still getting the virus.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. They are. But it'll be interesting to see how this transpires and how it unfolds. We will come back later before we start the regular season just to break down more of what daily life of the Dolphins. For Sun Sentinel, this is Omar Kelly and Dave Hyde. Dave Hyde, thank you for watching X's and Omar. We out.